Cut. This is The Cut. The Cut Podcast with Pete Fergusson. Film, music, games, entertainment. This is The Cut from Telegraph Talk.
Hello and welcome back to The Cut from telegraph.co.uk. In this week's podcast, Clive Morgan talks to the Jacksons. Also, Nick Cowen chats to us about the latest video games, including a couple that you can play on your morning commute. We've also got live music and an interview with new pop rock girl Tiffany Page, plus a look at this week's brand new films. First though, The Telegraph's Clive Morgan has been speaking to the Jacksons.
This is The Cut.
I'd like to say a very big thank you to the 4 remaining members of the Jackson 5, who are Jermaine, Jackie, Tito and Marlon. How are you?
We're fine, thank you.
I'm Morgan, how are you?
It's now the 40th anniversary of the Jackson 5, so is it possible to pick out your best memories of the past 4 decades?
This is Marlon speaking, and maybe each one of the brothers might want to probably have a different time frame, but I think as a young kid, traveling around the world and just hanging with my brothers is a memory that I'll always would never forget.
This is Jermaine. Mine would be the last moment that I had with him when the entire family was together.
As part of the anniversary, you also have a reality show called The Jacksons, A Family Dynasty. Now, you guys are normally quite private, so was it hard getting used to the cameras?
Yes and no. The no part is that there were some of us who probably needed a little more convincing than others. And then once we came aboard, everybody was ready to roll and move forward and make this happen. We really wanted to just let our audience across the world see who we are as an individual.
Which brother needed the most convincing?
Jackie was probably the last one to come aboard, and we could not convince Randy at all. So. And we respect his decision on that. Reality
shows such as this are normally quite humorous. How did you decide on the tone of the show?
This is Marlon speaking, and one of the. I don't think we thought about a tone of the show. We just wanted to be ourselves because our fans across the world has never really had a chance to see the brothers as learn the different personalities of each brother. You got 4 brothers here, and each one of us have a totally different personality, and so we just want to make sure that we project ourselves and let the people know that, at the end of the day, we might agree to disagree, but at the end of the day, we all understand that we're family, we're brothers, and that would never change, the love that we have for one another.
Was the purpose of the show to clear up misconceptions about yourselves?
I think it was just to let the fans know who we really are. I didn't care about clearing up anything, because once they look at us on the show, they're going to see who we are, and they're going to understand, hey, these guys are great. These guys, they do things that we do. Wow.
Michael's death was a great shock to everyone around the world. How easy was it for you to carry on filming once you'd heard the sad news?
It was devastating for myself. It's devastating for the entire family. And I still wake up today and can't believe that my brother's no longer with me. But in spirit, he will always be with me. But being the professionals that my brothers are, at a point in time, you learn to live with it. And each day gets better and better. And when you have obligations that you have to make sure that you meet, you move forward in life and keep moving forward. And that's something that all our brothers, and Michael too, would want us to do. You said you're going to do something, so let's finish it and let's get it done and let's do it.
How easy is it for you now to perform the Jackson 5 songs without Michael?
It would be very emotional to it. Every time, just to hear him on the radio today is very emotional.
I used to hear our songs when I heard our songs on the radio when the passing was early first heard about it and came on. There would be a pain inside of me, but now it gets easier and easier each time.
Why do you think those songs stood the test of time?
They're great songs. First of all, that's number one. They're great songs, but not only that, they're songs that are evergreen, that will live forever and ever and ever. And I don't care if you're 3 years old, and I don't care if you're 100 and some years old. You will enjoy that music, and that's the kind of music that we like doing. It's like Jermaine says, it's feel-good music.
Now, as everyone knows, the Jackson family is an extremely talented family, from you brothers to your sisters Janet, Latoya, Rebe, and Tito's children, who were in a band called 3T. So is there another group of Jacksons that we should be looking out for, or have you told all your children to stay away from show business?
Oh, there's more coming. There's much more.
I think when we were blessed, I think the Lord just didn't stop with the first generation of Jacksons. I think it continues, and there's some other talented nieces and nephews that we have in this family. And if they want to do music, I don't think any of the brothers will stand in their way. To be honest with you, if I had a choice, I would probably say no to some, but I don't, this is their life, their career. If they want to do that, then we're going to pitch in and try to make sure that they get the right guidance and be the best that they can be and succeed in that.
So I would just like to say thank you very much to Jermaine, Marlon, Jackie and Tito for your time.
That's it?
I'm afraid so.
This is Marlon Jackson saying thank you, and I'll see you when I get to England.
The Cut Podcast with Pete Fergusson.
And that was our very own Clive Morgan in conversation with the Jacksons. And as always, we'd love to know your thoughts on that interview, and in fact, anything else related to The Cut. You can email us, thecut@telegraph.co.uk. Still to come, Tiffany Page live and in conversation, as well as a look at this week's brand new movies. First though, here's the Telegraph video games critic, Nick Cowen.
Games.
Hi Nick, how's it going?
Oh, not so bad. Yourself?
Not too bad. Right, let's talk about some games again. First up, a driving game called Split Second.
Yeah, Split Second has basically been pitched by the developers as what a racing game would look like if Jerry Bruckheimer designed it.
Excellent.
And after we spent a couple of hours with it, we could see why. I mean, this is a game where cars are hurtling around a track, they're flying through the air, they're getting blown up. The way that Split Second differs from most racing games is that you have most arcade racing games shoot around a track and it's just, a big battle to get to the front of the queue. And the only thing that you're allowed to do usually is just shunt other people out the way. In this game, you can build power-ups which allow you to destroy your opponents and parts of the track. Now, every time you do a drift or you ride in someone's slipstream or you do a jump or you nail someone by hitting them in the back, a power-up bar beneath your rear bumper starts to light up, and it has 3 bars. Now, if you have 1 or 2, you can do like a smaller attack, like have a helicopter in the distance drop a crate right in front of them, or blow up a gas tank they're flying right past. When you've built up like the big meter, which has a red bar at the end, and you hit that button when you're prompted, it does amazing things like crash a Boeing 747 right into the middle of the race course, or drop an airport traffic control tower right into their path. And this stuff also, obviously, it changes the track, because now, like, instead of a straight line ahead, you have to go up and round
around the oil tank.
Exactly. Yeah. The most mind-boggling thing about this is it's made by Disney.
Really?
Yes,
that's interesting.
Family-friendly Disney, and I think it's great. It's really encouraging to see them dip their toes into these waters.
That's just the sort of game I love, actually. You don't get bored of these games.
Oh, no, not at all.
That's Split Second then on PC, Xbox, PS3, and in fact most consoles by the look of it. But what about your score?
On what we've seen, it looks like dynamite. I'm very surprised if it scored lower than an 8. But once again, as with all these things with previews, we have to wait for the final build, because anything can happen between now and May.
Right, on to something slightly different. Next game is available Xbox, PC, and on the iPhone, I believe, Broken Sword.
Yes, it is. Broken Sword is just out now for the iPhone and the iPod Touch. It's also come out around about the same time as Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, which is another game we're discussing. Both of these games are really interesting because for a while the iPod Touch and the iPhone have been building up a reputation as a handheld console which could possibly compete with the DS or the PSP. But with Chinatown Wars and Broken Sword, what you have is essentially 2 games which were marquee names when they arrived on the consoles they were originally made for, and here they are in this tiny handheld device, and they don't suffer from the port very much. I mean, Broken Sword's still an incredibly intriguing story. It's still got some wicked puzzles in it, and its visual style is brilliant, and it hasn't lost any of that being translated to the iPod Touch or the iPhone. It's a murder mystery. Don't want to go into too much of it because naturally, the more you dive into the game, the deeper you get, and it unveils its pleasures to you incrementally. It was made by Charles Cecil, who's a very, very talented video games developer, and the artistic style comes from Dave Gibbons, who drew the original Watchmen comic. Like I said, I don't want to say too much about it, but if you enjoy puzzle solving and you like intrigue and mystery and stories with layers and depth, you will love Broken Sword.
What about your score?
We gave it a 9 out of 10.
So the other iPhone game, as you said, that we're going to talk about is the latest in the Grand Theft Auto series, Chinatown Wars.
Yeah.
You can obviously play that on some of the big consoles as well.
Well, it was originally released for the Nintendo DS, and when it came out, we scored it a 10 out of 10 because it was a game that arguably made one of the best uses of that console at the time. It's been since released for the PSP and now, obviously, for the iPhone and the iPod Touch.
How do you actually play it, though, on an iPhone?
You kind of have a virtual joystick which you move around. Now, this can be problematic at times because sometimes your thumb can go over the wrong area of the screen and you'll end up driving into a hedge. But generally speaking, the controls work very, very well, especially for a game this size for this platform. And obviously, like with a lot of the other Grand Theft Auto games, it's got a very good story and there's a lot of elements of humour.
Okay, let's give a score then to Chinatown Wars.
Chinatown Wars, we gave a 9 out of 10 to.
9 out of 10,
yeah.
And that was Nick Cowen. For links to his latest reviews, head to telegraph.co.uk/The Cut. Now, a look at this week's brand new movies.
Film.
First up, Astro Boy, rated PG. It's an animated film about a young robot boy with incredible powers. It stars the vocal talents of Nicolas Cage and Samuel L. Jackson.
In this secret lab, the world's top scientist is building his most incredible creation.
Good morning, son.
Dad?
How do you feel?
Kind of weird.
That was Astro Boy, rated PG. Up next, Youth in Revolt, rated 15. Michael Cera stars as Nick Twisp, whose trailer trash parents Tito on the edge of divorce. Meanwhile, Nick sets his sights on his dream girl, hoping that one day she'll take his virginity.
America's nicest guy is about to go bad.
It's time to rebel.
Michael Cera.
Thanks for breakfast.
The dude from The Hangover.
Nick, get out here! What are you gonna do?
You're being so bad.
Like that.
That's Youth in Revolt, rated 15. And finally, Invictus, rated 12A. Morgan Freeman plays Nelson Mandela in his first term as South African president. He enlists the national rugby team to win the 1995 Rugby World Cup.
I think he wants us to win the World Cup.
This rugby is a political calculation.
It is a human calculation.
According to the experts, we'll reach the quarterfinals and no further.
According to the experts, you and I should still be in jail.
Times change. And we need to change as well. We become more than just a rugby team.
Did you ever imagine this? How could I?
The Cut. Thursdays from The Telegraph.
Time now for live acoustic music and an interview from Tiffany Page. She's born in Britain but raised in Zimbabwe and attracting a lot of acclaim. The Telegraph's Alistair Good spoke to her this week.
Telegraph.co.uk/The Cut. Music.
What goes around, goes around, goes around again. Down and out, down and out, down and out, my friend. Where you gonna run to? When's it gonna end? May the devil have mercy on your head. Turn around, bang, play dead, hit the ground, hit the ground.
I left Zimbabwe when I was about 8, so it's from about 18 months to 8 years old. But I remember it being hotter than England, which is, yeah. I remember getting told off once for singing too loudly and we had, like, I think it was like in Crash where all the kids had to line up and sit down and we had to sing hymns and stuff. And I remember and they were taping it for some reason. And then I remember her shouting at me for singing too loudly. And I was like, that's my first remembrance of any choir sort of stuff. So.
I know that this was selfish. I'm gonna go to hell for this. I only blame myself for it.
Like every gig that we do, we're getting better and better at, I guess, learning how to sway the crowd to, like behave in a certain way towards each different song. So we're learning how to sort of work a crowd, really. So I love it. It's really good. It's a challenge. I spent a year writing my album, and all of it, every time, like I go into a studio, I'd be like, right, this just happened to me, or this just happened to my friend. Right, let's get it down. So it lets it all out, sort of stuff. Well, every time, like, I'd listen to, my iPod on the bus or your Discman or whatever it was in those days, I'd always sort of sit there imagining I was whoever I was listening to on stage, like whether it was like because the band had like wicked drums, or then I'd like be sitting there going, imagine me on stage as a drummer. So there's like loads of different people, mainly Hole, Nirvana, I guess the standard ones from when you're a kid. Surprisingly, the Spice Girls at one point, and Sheryl Crow, but I still quite like them. And just, bands like Queens of the Stone Age and stuff. I know I sound nothing like them, but I think it's I love melody, and that's what I want. That's what I try and recreate rather than like take them as whole influences and go, oh, I want to be like them.
My heart's trying to get me to stay, but my head's gonna get its own way.
It makes me really happy being on stage, and being on tour is the coolest thing ever, because you meet loads of different people, and just seeing different people's reactions and hearing their different opinions on your stuff is really good. And I love performing, so it's really fun.
I walk away slow.
And you can see that interview and session online at telegraph.co.uk/The Cut. But that's it for this week's edition of The Cut. Before you go, you may be interested to know that Telegraph Fantasy Football are giving away £10,000. For details, simply head to telegraph.co.uk/fantasy football. And we've also put a nice handy link for you online at telegraph.co.uk/The Cut, where you can also find a link to buy the latest gig tickets, as well as the latest news and reviews from the world of entertainment. Until next Thursday, I'm Pete Fergusson, and that was The Cut.